January 11th, 1943. 24 hours before Hub Zemke's career ends. General Monk Hunter's office, 8th Fighter Command Headquarters, Bushy Hall, England. Major Hubert Zemke stands at attention in front of a mahogany desk that probably cost more than a P-47 Thunderbolt. His uniform is pressed, his shoes are polished, his hands are steady, but inside his chest, his heart is hammering like a machine gun. On the desk between him and the three-star general sits a manila folder. Zemke knows what is inside because he compiled it himself. Casualty statistics, gun camera footage, a captured Luftwaffe tactical manual with a swastika stamped on the cover, and a one-page proposal that will either save American pilots or destroy his career. General Hunter has not opened the folder. He is staring at Zemke with the expression of a man who has just been told his car needs a new engine. Let me make sure I understand you, Major. You are requesting permission to ignore Army Air Corps fighter doctrine. Doctrine that has been standard since 1939. Doctrine written by men with 30 years of combat experience, and you want to replace it with German tactics. Zemke's throat is dry. He has practiced this conversation a dozen times in his head. But now, standing in this office with its oil paintings of dead generals and its thick carpet that swallows sound, all his rehearsed arguments feel inadequate. Sir, I am requesting permission to test a tactical formation that will reduce pilot casualties by 70%. Hunter leans back in his leather chair. It creaks like a ship's timbers. Outside the tall windows, rain hammers against the glass. England in January, cold and wet and miserable, just like the war. Based on what evidence, Major? Based on 3 years of Luftwaffe combat data? Based on interviews with captured German pilots? Based on the fact that we are losing this war in the sky, sir? The words come out harder than Zemke intended. He can see Hunter's jaw tighten. You do not tell a 3-star general that America is losing. Not in 1943. Not when newspapers back home are printing stories about inevitable victory and the invincible 8th Air Force. But Zemke cannot stop now. He has been carrying this weight for 3 weeks. Ever since Tommy Hendricks died. Permission to speak freely, sir? Hunter waves his hand. The gesture says speak, but his face says, this better be good. Zemke opens the folder himself, since Hunter will not. He pulls out a photograph and lays it on the desk. It shows the wreckage of a P-47 Thunderbolt in a French wheat field. The cockpit is crushed. There is blood on the glass. Second Lieutenant Thomas Hendricks, 22 years old, from Sacramento, California. He was my wingman. We were escorting B-17s to Rouen on December 20th. We encountered 8 Focke-Wulf 190s at 23,000 feet. Tommy was flying standard doctrine, V formation, tight spacing, 50 feet off my right wing. He was staring at my wingtip, maintaining position, doing exactly what the manual says to do. Zemke's voice does not shake, but his hands do. He flattens them on the desk. The FW-190 came from 6 o'clock high. Tommy never saw it. He was too busy watching me. The German put a 2-second burst into his engine. Tommy's last words on the radio were, "Where did he come from?" Then his P-47 caught fire, and he went down. Hunter's face has not changed, but something in his eyes shifts. I am sorry for your loss, Major, but combat involves casualties. That is the nature of war. With respect, sir, this was not a combat casualty. This was a preventable death caused by tactically unsound doctrine. Zemke pulls out a second document, a typewritten page covered in numbers. Since arriving in England 3 months ago, the 8th Air Force has lost 47 fighter pilots in air-to-air combat. I have analyzed gun camera footage and after-action reports for every engagement. Do you know what the primary cause of death is, sir? Hunter does not answer. Situational awareness failure. Pilots getting shot from behind because they were maintaining formation instead of scanning for threats. 31 of those 47 deaths occurred because a pilot was focused on holding position rather than watching the sky. Tommy Hendricks was number 31. Zemke taps the statistics page. Our current doctrine prioritizes formation discipline over survival. It treats fighter combat like parade flying. Stay in position, maintain spacing, follow the leader. Meanwhile, German pilots are flying loose formations that maximize visibility and mutual support. They can see threats coming. They can maneuver independently. They do not die because they were staring at their leader's wingtip when they should have been checking 6 o'clock. Hunter picks up the page and reads it slowly. His fingers leave slight indentations in the paper. When he finally speaks, his voice is quieter. "What exactly are you proposing, Major?" Zemke pulls out the Luftwaffe manual. The swastika on the cover looks obscene in this room full of American flags and portraits of George Washington. The Germans call it Schwarm. 4 aircraft flying in 2 pairs, loose spacing. Each pilot has a specific role. The leader hunts. His wingman protects him. The second element does the same. Nobody flies alone. Nobody dies because doctrine said they had to maintain pretty formations. He flips open the manual to a page he has read so many times the corners are worn soft. "I have tested captured German fighters at Wright Field. I have flown the Messerschmitt 109 and the Focke-Wulf 190. I know what they can do because I have done it myself. And I know our pilots are dying because we are fighting a 1943 war with 1939 tactics." Hunter stands and walks to the window. Rain streams down the glass like the window is crying. For a long time, he says nothing. Zemke can hear his own pulse in his ears. Everything he has worked for, his entire career, the lives of his pilots, all of it hangs on what this man says next. Finally, Hunter turns around. "You understand what you are asking me to authorize? If I approve this, and pilots die because of it, both our careers are over. The press will crucify us. Congress will hold hearings. We will be the men who ignored proven doctrine and got American boys killed." "Yes, sir. I understand. And if I do not approve it, and pilots keep dying at the current rate, we will lose air superiority over Europe by spring." "Yes, sir." Hunter walks back to his desk and sits down heavily. He looks at the photograph of Tommy Hendrix's wrecked P-47. He looks at the statistics page. He looks at Zemke. 72 hours. You get 1 mission. You will escort B-17s to Wilhelmshaven using your formation. If it works, we continue testing. If it fails, you will spend the rest of this war flying a desk in Washington, and I will make sure you never command combat operations again. Do we have an understanding?" "Yes, sir." "Thank you, sir." "Do not thank me yet, Major. You just bet your career on a German tactical manual and a hunch. I hope to God you are right." Zemke salutes, does an about-face, and walks out. His legs feel strange, like he is walking on a ship's deck in rough seas. He has just committed to changing how the United States Air Forces fights its war. In 72 hours, he will either be a hero or a cautionary tale. He steps out into the rain and lets it soak his uniform. The cold feels good. It feels real. He thinks about Tommy Hendrix, about the kid's last words. Where did he come from? About how Tommy died doing exactly what he was trained to do. That stops now. January 12th, 1943. 60 hours before the mission. RAF Horsham St. Faith, Norfolk, England. 0500 hours. The briefing room smells like fear disguised as cigarette smoke. 22 pilots sit in folding chairs that creak every time someone shifts weight. Most of them are between 19 and 24 years old. A few are older. All of them look tired. 3 months of combat has aged them in ways that have nothing to do with calendars. Outside, 30 P-47 Thunderbolts sit in neat rows on the frozen concrete. Each aircraft weighs 7 tons empty, 9 tons with fuel and ammunition. Each one has 8 50 caliber machine guns that can fire 3,200 rounds per minute combined. Each one costs $60,000. By spring, half of them will be scrap metal scattered across France and Germany. Hub Zemke stands at the front of the room with his back to a blackboard. He is holding a piece of chalk, but he has not written anything yet. He is studying his pilots. These are the men of the 56th Fighter Group, the Wolfpack. Most of them have fewer than 10 combat missions. Some have fewer than 5. They are scared and trying not to show it. They smoke their cigarettes with exaggerated casualness and joke with each other in voices that are slightly too loud. Zemke knows what they are thinking. They are thinking about the mission they flew yesterday. They are thinking about the empty chair 2 rows back, where Lieutenant Frank Murphy used to sit. Murphy went down over Lille with his engine on fire. Nobody saw a parachute. They are wondering who will be next. Zemke turns to the blackboard and writes 3 numbers. He makes the letters 2 feet tall, so nobody in the back row can pretend they did not see. 11 missions, 32%, 5 sorties. The room goes silent. Even the cigarette smoke seems to hang motionless in the air. Second Lieutenant Bobby Johnson, sitting in the 3rd row, feels his stomach clench. He has flown 3 missions. The numbers on that board say he has 2 more before the odds kill him. Zemke's voice cuts through the silence like a knife through silk. These numbers represent your statistical life expectancy as fighter pilots in the 8th Air Force. 11 missions is the average number of combat sorties you will complete before you are killed, captured, or wounded severely enough to be sent home. 32% is your probability of surviving a full tour of 25 missions. 5 sorties is the median. Half of you will not see your 6th mission. He lets that information settle into their bones. Nobody moves. Nobody speaks. Some of the newer pilots look like they have been punched in the stomach. Yesterday, the 78th Fighter Group escorted B-17s to Lille. They encountered approximately 20 Focke-Wulf 190s. The 78th flew standard doctrine, V formation, 3 ships in tight spacing. They lost 4 pilots. They shot down 1 German aircraft. That is a kill ratio of 1 to 4. Zemke taps the chalk against the blackboard hard enough to leave white dust marks. We are losing this war, not on the ground, not in production, in the sky, where it matters. We are bleeding fighter pilots faster than we can train replacements. At the current rate, by June there will not be enough experienced pilots left to escort the bomber offensive. The Germans will shoot down our B-17s with impunity. The strategic bombing campaign will fail, and we will lose the war. Captain Gerald Johnson raises his hand. Johnson is from Oregon. He flew crop dusters before the war. He has survived 9 missions, which makes him ancient by current standards. Sir, what did the 78th do wrong? Zemke's expression does not change, but something flickers in his eyes. They did not do anything wrong, Jerry. They followed doctrine exactly as written. They maintained tight formation. They kept spacing within 50 feet. They executed textbook tactics, and 4 of them died because textbook tactics are killing us. He turns back to the blackboard and draws 3 aircraft in a V formation. The drawing is crude, but effective. Lead aircraft at the front, 2 wingmen tucked in close on either side. This is how the Army Air Corps teaches us to fight. This formation was designed in 1939 for aircraft with open cockpits and no radios. Pilots needed visual contact to see hand signals from their leaders. Staying close made sense. But we are flying P-47 Thunderbolts in 1943. We have radios. We have excellent visibility. And we are fighting Germans who abandoned this formation 3 years ago because it gets you killed. He draws a second formation next to the first. 4 aircraft arranged loosely like fingers on an outstretched hand. 2 pairs separated by several hundred yards. This is Schwarm. Every Luftwaffe fighter pilot learns this in basic training. It has been their standard tactical formation since 1940, and it is superior to our doctrine in every measurable way. Lieutenant Francis Gabreski, sitting in the front row, leans forward. Gabby is Polish-American, a Notre Dame graduate, and the only pilot in the room who has flown combat with the RAF before transferring to the 56th. He speaks with the careful precision of someone who has learned not to waste words. Sir, if it is better, why are we not using it? Because changing doctrine takes time. Because the men who wrote our manuals learned to fly in biplanes in World War I. Because institutional inertia moves slower than German bullets, because we are Americans, and we assume we invented aviation, and therefore we must know better than everyone else. Zemke's voice has an edge now. He is angry, but keeping it controlled, channeling it. I have been studying Luftwaffe tactics for 3 weeks, reading captured flight manuals, analyzing gun camera footage, interviewing German prisoners of war, and I have identified 3 specific reasons why our current formation doctrine is killing you. He walks to the side of the blackboard and taps his chalk against the V formation drawing. Problem 1. In V formation, 2/3 of your pilots are not watching for threats. The wingmen are staring at the leader's aircraft, maintaining position. Their entire focus is on not colliding with him. Meanwhile, Focke-Wulf 190s are diving out of the sun from 6 o'clock high and shooting them in the back. They die without ever knowing what hit them. Bobby Johnson's hands are shaking. He puts his cigarette down because he does not trust himself to hold it steady. He has been the wingman for the last 3 missions. Every second of every flight, his eyes were glued to his element leader's wingtip, terrified of drifting out of position. He never once looked behind him. Zemke continues. Problem 2. When you are attacked, the formation cannot maneuver. If the leader breaks left, the wingmen have to follow instantly, or they lose formation. But they are not focused on fighting. They are focused on not running into each other. The Germans separate you. They kill the wingman first, then the leader. You die in sequence like ducks in a shooting gallery. He pauses and looks directly at Johnson. The kid has gone pale. 3 weeks ago, Lieutenant Thomas Hendricks was my wingman. We were escorting B-17s to Rouen. We got jumped by 8 FW-190s at 23,000 feet. Tommy was flying exactly where doctrine says a wingman should be, 50 feet off my right wing, eyes on my aircraft, perfect formation discipline. Zemke's voice gets quieter, but somehow more intense. The FW-190 came from behind and above. Tommy never saw it. He was too busy maintaining position. The German put a 2-second burst into his engine, 37mm cannon shells and 13mm machine gun rounds. Tommy's P-47 caught fire. His last words on the radio were, "Where did he come from?" Then he went down. He was 22 years old, from Sacramento, California. He liked jazz music, and he wrote letters to his mother every Sunday. The room is completely silent now. Even the men who were trying to look casual have stopped pretending. Tommy Hendricks died doing exactly what he was trained to do. He maintained perfect formation discipline right up until the moment a German bullet killed him. That is problem 2. Zemke turns back to the blackboard. Problem 3. If one pilot gets in trouble, the others cannot help without breaking formation. And breaking formation is considered cowardice. So you watch your friends burn, and you do nothing because doctrine says you must maintain position. That is not tactics. That is murder. Captain Walker Mahurin speaks up from the back row. Bud is from Fort Wayne, Indiana, engineering student who dropped out of Purdue to join the Air Corps. He is one of the smartest men in the room and also one of the most cautious. Sir, are you saying Army Air Corps doctrine is wrong? I am saying doctrine written for 1939 biplanes is inadequate for 1943 fighter combat. I am saying the Luftwaffe has been refining their tactics through 3 years of continuous combat, while we have been flying the same formations we used in World War I. I am saying these numbers do not lie. He taps the blackboard again. 11 missions, 32%, 5 sorties. And I am saying I will not watch any more of my pilots die, because someone in Washington decided 30 years ago that tight V formations look pretty in newsreels. Zemke walks to the corner of the room and picks up a battered manual with German text and a swastika stamped on the cover. He holds it up. This is a Luftwaffe tactical handbook recovered from a shot-down Messerschmitt 109 last month. I have spent 2 weeks translating it with help from our intelligence section, and I have learned more about modern fighter tactics from this manual than from 4 years of Army Air Corps training. He opens it to a marked page. In swarm formation, Every pilot has a specific job. The element leader hunts for targets. His wingman protects him by scanning for threats. The second element leader does the same. His wingman protects him. They fly loose formation with 200 to 500 yards between pairs. Every pilot's head is on a swivel. Nobody stares at wingtips. Nobody dies because they were worried about formation discipline instead of staying alive. Zemke closes the manual. If one element is attacked, the other element covers them. If someone gets separated, they have a wingman who will stay with them. Nobody flies alone. Nobody dies alone. It is tactically superior in every measurable way, and it is the reason the Luftwaffe has been winning this war. He walks to the front of the room and faces them directly. Yesterday afternoon, I met with General Hunter at 8th Fighter Command Headquarters. I showed him these statistics. I showed him this German manual. I showed him gun camera footage of the 78th Fighter Group getting slaughtered because they were flying in a tight V when they should have been spread out. I told him our doctrine is obsolete and it is killing us. What did he say? Gabreski asks. He gave me 72 hours to prove my case. In 60 hours, we escort B-17s to Wilhelmshaven, 200 miles over occupied Europe. The Luftwaffe will meet us with everything they have. We will not be flying V formation. We will be flying Schwarm, 4 ship elements, loose spacing, mutual support, and we will prove that American pilots can beat German pilots when we stop fighting with tactics designed for World War I. The room erupts, not with enthusiasm, with fear and confusion and anger. These men have been trained for months to fly tight formations. They have been told 100 times that formation discipline is what keeps them alive. Now their commanding officer is saying everything they learned is wrong. Second Lieutenant Dave Schilling stands up. Dave is from Pennsylvania. He has movie star looks and 5 confirmed kills, which makes him an ace. He is also the closest thing the squadron has to a natural leader among the junior pilots. Sir, with respect, you are asking us to ignore our training and copy the enemy. If this goes wrong, we all die. Zemke nods slowly. You are right, Dave. If this goes wrong, you will die. But if we keep doing what we are doing now, you will also die. The only difference is whether you die because I was wrong or because I did nothing. He walks to the window and looks out at the P-47 Thunderbolts sitting in neat rows on the frozen concrete. General Hunter told me that if this mission fails, I will be relieved of command and reassigned to a desk in Washington. My career will be over. But that is not what keeps me awake at night. What keeps me awake is the thought of writing another letter to another mother explaining that her son died because I did not have the courage to change tactics that were killing him. He turns back to face them. I am not asking you to trust me because I am your commanding officer. I am asking you to trust mathematics. The Luftwaffe has been flying Schwarm for 3 years. They have a kill ratio of 4 to 1 in their favor. That is not because German pilots are better than you. It is because they are flying formations that work, and we are flying formations that do not. Zemke walks back to the blackboard and picks up the chalk. We have 60 hours. I am going to teach you how to fly 4 ship elements, how to maintain mutual support, how to check 6 o'clock every 30 seconds, how to communicate on the radio without breaking radio discipline, how to stay alive. He writes a single word on the blackboard in letters even larger than the statistics. Survive. This is your only mission objective. Not glory, not kill counts, not making the newspapers. Survival. I do not care if you shoot down a single German aircraft as long as all of you come home. But I promise you this, if you learn what I am about to teach you, you will come home, and the Germans will not. For a long moment, nobody moves. Bobby Johnson stares at his shaking hands and thinks about 5 sorties, about how 3 missions down means he has 2 left before the numbers kill him, about how Lieutenant Murphy's chair is empty and somebody else will be sitting in it tomorrow because the Air Corps does not leave chairs empty for long. He stands up. I am in, sir. Francis Gabreski stands next. Me too, Major. Then Gerald Johnson. then Walker Mahurin, then Dave Schilling. One by one, all 22 pilots stand. They do not understand the tactical theory yet. They have not memorized the swarm positioning, or the radio protocols, or the angle tolerances, but they understand the three numbers on the blackboard: 11 missions, 32%, 5 sorties, and they understand that Major Hub Zemke just bet his career on keeping them alive. Zemke nods once, sharp and final. Good. We start training in 1 hour. By the time we take off for Wilhelmshaven, you will be able to fly 4 ship elements in your sleep. Because when the FW-190s come for you at 400 miles per hour, at 25,000 feet with the sun behind them, you will not have time to think. You will only have time to react. And your reaction will either save your life or end it. He walks to the door and then stops. One more thing. The Luftwaffe thinks they are better than us. They think their 3 years of combat experience and their superior tactics make them invincible. They think American pilots are easy kills. In 60 hours, we are going to teach them that Americans are very fast learners, and we do not lose forever. He opens the door and steps out into the freezing January morning. Behind him, 22 pilots stare at the blackboard, at the numbers that represent their lives measured in missions and percentages, at the single word written below them: survive. Outside, the sun is starting to rise over the frozen airfield. The P-47 Thunderbolts sit silent and waiting. In 60 hours, they will fly into combat using tactics that every expert says are reckless and undisciplined and tactically unsound. And they will prove that sometimes the only way to win a war is to break every rule designed to fight the last one. January 12th, 1943. 60 hours before the Wilhelmshaven mission. RAF Horsham St. Faith, Norfolk, England. Early morning drizzle chills the crew, and paint on the P-47 Thunderbolts gleams under the grey sky. Hub Zemke stands on the runway, watching 22 young pilots climb into their massive, roaring juggernauts. Each airplane weighs 7 tons, packed with 8 50 caliber machine guns and roaring with 2,000 horsepower radial engines. Physically, these planes seem built for survival. Mentally, many pilots doubt if they will survive just the next sortie. Zemke's voice cuts over the radio with calm authority but burning determination. Wolfpack flight, prepare for first training sortie in new formation. Flight leaders and wingmen, pair up. Remember the finger 4. Loose spacing, mutual support. Check each other's 6 o'clock every 30 seconds. Think of yourselves as parts of one living organism, not individuals locked in a tight formation. Your lives depend on it. Bobby Johnson, in the number 4 seat, feels his heart pounding in time with the engine's rhythm. His usual instinct wants to squeeze tight to the leader's wing, hold position within 50 feet. The old V formation drilled into him since flight school. But today, something inside tells him to loosen up, to give space, to watch the airspace all around. He checks his 6 o'clock. Empty sky. 30 seconds, still empty. Another 30, still clear. Good spacing, Zemke's voice encourages. Keep it loose, keep it fast. We don't want shadows, we want vision. The aircraft lift off in pairs. Instead of the regimented V, each pilot flings himself into unpredictable braids of the sky, a living finger formation. 4 aircraft arranged as the fingers of an outstretched hand, each pilot guarding a specific sector, teaching each other to watch and react, not just follow. About halfway through the flight, Zemke suddenly calls a simulated attack on one element. The wingman calls out a bandit at 6 o'clock, and the leader brakes hard without hesitation. The wingman immediately follows, eyes scanning above and below, trusting and covering his mate. In a heartbeat, the old reflexes collide with the new. 2 pilots almost collide because the training and discipline is stronger than the lesson of survival. Zemke's radio crackles with a harsh order. Throttle back, maintain control. Crew chief on the ground grimaces. Practice crashes will cost thousands in repairs. They reform, regroup, fly tight now, but not rigid. No pilot stares at another's wingtip. The sky is scanned, divided, and guarded on all sides. After the sortie, Zemke gathers the group in the damp hangar smelling of oil and sweat. He slams a fresh chalk mark on the blackboard. Mutual support, situational awareness, flexibility. Mutual support means never leaving your element leader alone. Wingmen are his eyes, his shield, his life insurance. Trust your wingman to spot threats you cannot see. Situational awareness means watching the entire 360 degrees around your aircraft, dividing the sky among yourselves so no enemy can approach unseen. Flexibility means breaking free when you must, not turning like one piece of metal but flowing, adapting to enemy moves and protecting each other. Walker Mahurin raises a hesitant hand, voice quivering with concern and intellect. Sir, what if we lose each other in combat? What if the formation splinters under fire? Then you regroup fast with prescribed procedures, Zemke replies. But spacing, 200 to 500 yards, is your buffer. Tight enough to support, loose enough to maneuver. It's a life or death balance. Inside, young pilots realize all their muscle memory, every instinct from hundreds of hours flying in flight school, is being rewritten. That night, as frost melts into cold rain, in a small barracks common room, several pilots circle around a barely opened whiskey bottle. No one speaks much. The weight of what comes next presses like the cold outside. Dave Schilling, seasoned and outspoken, breaks the silence. Do you really think this is going to work? All this finger four stuff? Bobby Johnson takes a long look around, faces carved from worry and exhaustion. He thinks about the numbers Zemke wrote on the board. 11 missions, 32% survive. If it doesn't, he says quietly, we're all dead by spring anyway. Jerry Johnson nods slowly. The Germans have been flying this formation since 40. We're just catching up. If we want to beat them, we need to be smarter. Walker Mahurin smiles faintly. It's not about being the best pilot. It's about using the best tactics. P-47s can't turn like a Spitfire, but we can outdive and outrun. We have to use what the plane does best. Francis Gabreski, with the steady calm of combat experience behind him, adds, the RAF learned this lesson. Tight formations got them killed. The Major is just applying what works. Bobby sits back, tightens his grip on the empty whiskey bottle. Tomorrow, at dawn, they will test whether learning from the enemy is enough. Tomorrow they find out if Americans learn faster in the sky than those who ignore change on the ground. Outside, the vast fleet of P-47 Thunderbolts waits in the rain, silent predators armed with new tactics. Inside, young Americans prepare to break every old rule, because survival depends on it. 60 hours to go. The war above Europe is about to change. January 13th, 1943. 36 hours before the Wilhelmshaven mission. RAF Horsham St. Faith, Norfolk, England. The air is cold and damp, thick grey clouds blocking the early morning light. Hub Zemke stands with his pilots on the rain-slick runway. They are ready for their final training before the mission, but the real battle is not yet here. Today, they will push the limits of the Finger Four formation in a series of hard, simulated combat drills designed to prepare them for the real thing ahead. The P-47 Thunderbolts rumble to life, their 2,000 horsepower radial engines tearing through the mist. They are heavy aircraft with sluggish acceleration at low levels, but fast in dives, rugged enough to take serious damage and keep flying, and armed with 850 caliber machine guns. Yet in early 1943, their range and flight qualities require careful management and tactical discipline. Zemke's voice cuts crisply over the radios. Wolfpack flight, today is about survival. We fly Finger Four formations loose enough to see threats, tight enough to support each other. Remember, your life depends on the wingman to your rear and 6 o'clock. The pilots taxi out, spacing their aircraft more widely than old doctrine commands. Bobby Johnson feels the tension, every muscle ready for sudden action, every second teaching him to watch, not follow blindly. Over the countryside, they fly combat training exercises against mock bandit attacks played out by other pilots. The first simulated attack is rough. Mid-air coordination breaks down, some pilots almost collide in the foggy air, and orders are shouted urgently over static-filled radios. Zemke's tone is firm but patient. Spacing, don't close in. Trust your wingman to watch your six. If you lose your element leader, regroup immediately and call. One pilot's early mistake causes a near mid-air collision, sparking sharp reprimands during the debriefing. The fear of death lurks close behind every error, sharpening focus with brutal clarity. As the training sorties continue, the pilots face moments of panic and hesitation. Many struggle to trust the new formation and strategy, memories of previous losses clouding their nerves. At one point, Bobby's wingman gets shot down during a practice attack. The nervousness is real. The group reacts quickly, recovering the separated pilot and adapting with hard lessons on communication, trust, and rapid response. After hours in the air and multiple runs, subtle improvements start to appear. Faster reactions, smoother brakes, better mutual support. Slowly, the Wolfpack pilots gain confidence without illusions of immediate perfection. Back on the ground, the debriefing is intense. Zemke reviews gun camera footage from recent European missions, showing bitter air battles where old V formations suffered catastrophic losses from surprise rear attacks. He looks each pilot in the eye. The enemy knows we are learning. They fight smarter, so we must fly smarter. Today's drills don't guarantee survival, but they make it more likely. This is the price of adaptation. Late into the evening, the group gathers quietly in the barracks. Conversations are low, wary. The fear and doubt from days past have not vanished, only shifted. Zemke sits apart, writing in his notebook. The fighting has yet to begin, but this fragile bond of trust, the slow mastery of new skills, could turn the tide. The war awaits. So do their first real encounters beyond training grounds. Tomorrow, everything changes. January 27th, 1943. Roughly 3 years since the United States formally entered the war, the 8th Air Force prepares for its first daylight bombing mission targeting the Kriegsmarine base at Wilhelmshaven, Germany. At RAF Horsham St. Faith, the tension is palpable. For Hub Zemke and his Wolfpack, this mission represents the culmination of months of rigorous training in the Finger 4 combat formation they pioneered against the odds. Yet the reality of their challenge presses on heavily. The P-47 Thunderbolts in their hands are powerful but limited machines in early 1943. Their range is tight. Their rates of climb and maneuverability demand precision and caution. As dawn cracks the grey sky, hundreds of B-17 flying fortresses thunder into the air, their crews braced for a hazardous journey deep into hostile territory. The role of Zemke and his fighters is clear and unforgiving. Escort the bombers, defend against Luftwaffe interceptors, and bring as many planes home as possible. The Wolfpack warms up, engines roaring, propellers slicing through the frigid air. Crew chiefs make last checks. Pilots strap themselves tightly into the cold and tight cockpits, elbows and knees scarce against the metal. The stakes are higher now than ever. Losses so far have been brutal. Zemke's voice snaps orders over the radio. Wolfpack, maintain Finger 4 spacing at all times. Protect the bombers fiercely. Watch your 6 o'clock. Trust your wingman. If separated, execute rejoin immediately. The formation takes flight, climbing steadily amidst thinning clouds over the North Sea. The radio bursts with static-laced chatter as early Luftwaffe scouts are detected. The moment tension snaps like a wire. Scouts report a wave of German fighters inbound, Messerschmitt 109s and Focke-Wulf 190s assigned to scramble. Fighter controllers give the standard warning, and the Wolfpack steels for their first real test in battle. "Bandits spotted," crackles across the frequency. "Wolfpack, engage." The air flares with tracer rounds, and the brutal ballet of combat ignites. The Wolfpack pilots throw themselves into the sky, executing the Finger Four tactics rehearsed so exhaustively. Tight element support, constant visual scanning, improvised defense maneuvers. Despite their training, nerves crackle in the cold cockpit air. The P-47s, heavier and less agile than German fighters, rely on careful use of speed and altitude advantage. Every turn is a decision between survival and death. Bobby Johnson's hands twitch on controls, sweat mingled with ice forming on his gloves. His wingman narrowly avoids colliding with another passing fighter during a desperate breakaway. Over the radio, Zemke's voice cuts through. "Stay focused, eyes sharp, mutual support." Several Wolfpack members suffer battle damage. One pilot's oxygen system fails mid-combat. He's forced into a difficult emergency descent. Another takes hits to the wing, losing control for seconds that feel like years before recovering composure. Against all odds, the Wolfpack breaks the attacker's momentum. The pilots shoot down a handful of enemy aircraft, though victories are hard won and costly. 2 of the Thunderbolts don't return, victims of lethal enemy fire. As the crews regroup and escort the battered bombers home, there's no euphoria yet. The mission was fraught with peril, sacrifices made, and lessons burned into every pilot's memory. Zemke debriefs with a steely glare as the sun sets over the airfield. "We survived. We did not win. But today, the Finger Four formation earned its place in history. Tomorrow, we will fly better." In the quiet moments, Bobby stares at his hands, feeling the weight of the day, losses, close calls, trust earned and betrayed in split seconds. He knows this is just the beginning. The sky above Germany will offer no reprieve. Tomorrow, the sky will take more. April 1943 through May 1945. The story of the 56th Fighter Group, Hub Zemke's Wolfpack, is not simply a tale of aerial victories, but a revolution in air combat that changed the course of history. Lieutenant David Michaels sits alone in a quiet corner of the squadron bar, nursing a cold drink. His eyes flicker with a distant sadness as he recalls his first combat mission with the Wolfpack. "I lost 2 good friends that day," he whispers. "Men I trusted with my life. They went up, and they never came down." From their first combat sweep in April 1943 to the last dogfight over Europe in spring 1945, the Wolfpack flew more missions and scored more kills than any other P-47 equipped fighter group in the 8th Air Force. Over 660 confirmed air-to-air kills and hundreds more on the ground redefined what was possible for fighter aircraft and their pilots. In one vivid battle near the Reich, the sky was an ocean of flak and tracer fire. Zemke led a dive against a formation of enemy fighters, attempting to break through to the bombers. The deafening roar of engines mixed with the sharp staccato of machine guns. One Thunderbolt spun out under heavy fire, its pilot fighting to regain control as smoke filled the cockpit. Around him, wingmen circled protectively, calling out threats seconds before they arrived. The dance of life and death played out in the cold grey sky, a testament to training, trust, and courage. Pilots like Captain Francis Gabby Gabreski, the European theater's leading American ace, Captain Robert S. Johnson, and many others rose from fledgling young flyers to legends, each crediting their survival and success to the innovative Finger Four tactics Zemke championed. The battles were brutal. The losses were heavy. Ground crews worked tirelessly under freezing, sometimes perilous conditions to keep the formidable Thunderbolts flying. The group evolved from bomber escorts to spearheads of air superiority, excelling in dive-bombing raids, strafing runs on enemy airfields, and providing close support during the Normandy invasion and the Battle of the Bulge. Zemke's leadership was marked not only by tactical brilliance, but by a deep bond with his men. He pushed them relentlessly, yet inspired fierce loyalty, demanding adaptability, precision, and mutual trust. His doctrine became a blueprint adopted worldwide, with Finger 4 formation standard in every modern Air Force decades later. After the war, Zemke quietly retired, never seeking fame. But his legacy lives on in the 6-jet missing man formations flown in his honor, in the doctrines that still train fighter pilots worldwide, and in the lives saved by a group that dared to question convention and fight smarter. Today, every pilot trained in modern fighter doctrine owes a debt to the Wolfpack. The lessons of trust, innovation, and courage passed down from those young pilots in P-47 Thunderbolts continue to shape the skies. The story of the Wolfpack reminds us that victory in war is forged not only by weapons and numbers, but by the unbreakable spirit of those who dare to change the rules and fly together as one. If you appreciate untold stories of grit and innovation, subscribe and join the conversation. Share in the comments which moment from the Wolfpack's daring journey moved you most, and like if you believe courage and teamwork still define true victory. Your voice keeps these legends alive.